The call to adventure. Elias Reed's heart raced as he boarded the gleaming vessel, the Odyssey. Clutching a slim, dark bag, he moved cautiously through the corridors, unable to believe he'd made it this far. The invitation, after all, had been mysterious. A personal message from the Galactic Council, summoning him from his quiet life on Earth to serve in a special mission far beyond the reaches of known space. But what kind of mission would require an ordinary human among a league of alien beings? He glanced around as the shuttle filled with all manner of extraterrestrial passengers, beings with opalescent skin, tentacled limbs, eyes that gleamed like polished metal. Elias's stomach twisted with both fear and exhilaration. As he found an empty seat near the back, he noticed an alien beside him who looked almost human. Her skin shimmered faintly blue, and her eyes were a deep, vivid violet. She observed him with a curious tilt of her head, flashing a slight smile. Elias returned the gesture, suddenly feeling very out of place. Before he could say more, the ship's engines rumbled to life, and a voice crackled over the intercom. "Welcome aboard the Odyssey, travelers. Our destination is the Starflame Expanse. Sit tight, it's going to be a smooth journey." The seatbelt lights flicked on, and the shuttle gently lurched forward, accelerating into the void. Elias tried to steady his breathing, but there was no stopping his curiosity. He looked over at his seatmate, trying not to stare at her skin, which seemed to shimmer even in the dim cabin light. "So, you're going to the Expanse too?" he ventured, attempting casual conversation. The alien woman's smile widened. "It seems so. I've heard a human has been called to join the mission," she said, her voice musical and slightly accented. "That wouldn't be you, would it?" Elias grinned, feeling a bit of pride. "Yeah, that's me. But I'm not sure why. I mean, I'm just a regular guy from Earth." The woman's eyes sparkled with interest. "The Council doesn't make mistakes. They see something in you, whether you realize it or not. I'm Elira, by the way," she said, extending a slender hand. "Elias," he replied, shaking her hand. Her touch was warm, with a slight tingling sensation that was both comforting and oddly electrifying. As the shuttle streaked across the star-speckled expanse, Elias and Elira fell into an easy conversation. Elira explained that she was from a species called the Lumerians, known for their deep empathy and telepathic abilities. Her planet, Ilarion, had long been a member of the Galactic Council, though she was one of the few Lumerians who chose to travel beyond her homeworld. "Life in the Expanse can be challenging," she said, her gaze drifting to the window as if she were watching memories play out in the stars. "There are wonders there, yes, but also dangers. You'll need to stay alert, and I suppose you'll be needing allies," she added with a wry smile. "I could use a friend out there," Elias replied, the weight of the unknown settling heavily on him. Elira's friendliness was comforting, but his mind buzzed with questions he couldn't voice. Why him? What skill could he offer that others couldn't? The quiet conversation was interrupted by a sudden jolt, and the lights in the shuttle flickered. Elira's eyes widened, and Elias's stomach clenched as the shuttle shook violently. "Is that supposed to happen?" he asked, a tremor in his voice. "No," Elira replied, her tone serious. "It's not." An alarm blared through the ship, and the intercom crackled again. "Passengers, please remain calm. We're experiencing an unforeseen interference. Stand by as we..." The message cut off abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence. Then, as if summoned by the very darkness outside, a massive shadow enveloped the ship. Elias watched in horror as something vast and shrouded in a pulsing aura of deep indigo materialized in front of them, a vessel that dwarfed the Odyssey. A sudden calm voice, resonating within their minds, rather than over the intercom, cut through the growing panic. "Travelers of the Odyssey, do not be afraid. We are emissaries from the Celestial Order, and we seek only those who have been called by the Council. If you are among them, step forward now." Elira looked at Elias, her eyes urging him on. He swallowed, his heart pounding, and slowly rose from his seat, following the other chosen passengers toward the shuttle's exit. As he joined a small group at the front, he felt Allura's comforting presence by his side. Together, they were led onto a small, bright platform that appeared out of thin air, its edges shimmering with golden light. The platform lifted, carrying them into the enormous vessel above. When they arrived, Elias was astounded by the sheer beauty and vastness of the interior. Towers of crystal floated in mid-air, pulsing with streams of light, while intricate pathways crisscrossed above. In the center, a figure stood, draped in shimmering robes that seemed to be woven from the stars themselves. "Welcome," the figure said, their voice resonating in Elias's mind. "I am Solari, an emissary of the Celestial Order. Each of you has been chosen for a purpose, for the Expanse faces a threat unseen in millennia, a force beyond our control that seeks to engulf all life." Elias felt a chill run down his spine as Solari's words sunk in. "You, each of you, possess unique abilities," Solari continued, "and together, we will undertake a mission to preserve our worlds. Know that the journey will be perilous, and it will demand the best of you. Only by uniting our strengths will we prevail." The passengers exchanged nervous glances. Elias looked over at Allura, who gave an encouraging nod. He felt a swell of determination, but he couldn't shake the uncertainty gnawing at him. His abilities? What could he, an ordinary human, contribute? Solari extended a hand toward Elias, motioning him forward. Elias Reeve stepped forward. His legs trembled as he approached, feeling the eyes of both the alien passengers and the celestial emissary on him. Solari placed a hand on his shoulder, and instantly, a wave of energy surged through him, filling him with a sense of purpose and courage he hadn't known before. "There is power within you, Elias, a power you must discover for yourself," Solari intoned. "Embrace it, and it will guide you. Your kind has a strength that often lies hidden, one that could change the fate of many. Will you trust in this journey?" Elias hesitated only a moment before nodding. "Yes, I'll do it." With his commitment sealed, the platform began to glow, sending each chosen individual to a different chamber where their training would commence. Allura caught his gaze one last time, her look one of unwavering confidence and an unspoken promise that they would meet again. As Elias's vision filled with blinding light, he took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever fate awaited him in the unknown depths of the Starflame Expanse. The trials begin. Elias found himself standing alone in a cavernous chamber. The walls shimmered with symbols that seemed to shift and pulse in response to his movements. He took a cautious step forward, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. A low hum filled the air, and then, as if conjured from thin air, a figure materialized before him, Solari, the emissary from the Celestial Order. "Your journey truly begins now, Elias," Solari's voice resonated around him. "You have chosen to stand with us, but choice is only the beginning. Each of you will face trials meant to reveal your hidden strengths." Elias nodded, swallowing his apprehension. He couldn't help but remember Allura's encouraging words from the shuttle. The council didn't make mistakes. Yet doubt lingered, gnawing at him. What if he failed? What if there was nothing special about him at all? Solari's gaze softened, as if sensing his inner turmoil. "Believe in yourself, Elias. Humans possess resilience beyond what many in this galaxy comprehend. Embrace that, and you may surprise even yourself." With a gentle wave of Solari's hand, the chamber around Elias began to shift, transforming into a landscape unlike any he had ever seen. Towering trees with crystalline bark stretched toward a sky painted in swirling shades of lavender and teal. Strange, bioluminescent plants lit the path ahead, casting an ethereal glow over the terrain. In the distance, Elias could hear the faint trickle of running water. "Your first task is one of endurance and perception," Solari's voice echoed in his mind. "Navigate this forest and reach the river's edge before nightfall. But beware, for the forest is alive, and it watches those who pass through it." Before Elias could ask for further instructions, Solari's presence vanished, leaving him alone in the vibrant alien wilderness. He took a deep breath and steeled himself, setting off down the narrow, winding path. As he ventured deeper into the forest, Elias noticed how the plants seemed to shift and sway as he passed. Leaves the size of shields quivered, and strange, root-like tendrils snaked across the ground, rearranging themselves as he walked. The forest felt alive in a way that was both beautiful and unsettling, as if every creature, every plant was attuned to his presence. After an hour of walking, Elias began to feel the weight of exhaustion creeping in. His muscles ached, and his senses were on high alert. Just as he was considering taking a break, he heard a soft rustling sound to his left. He froze, his heart racing. From the dense foliage emerged a creature unlike anything he'd ever seen, a lithe, four-legged animal with translucent skin that revealed intricate networks of bioluminescent veins. Its eyes, large and glowing with an eerie green light, locked onto him with an intelligence that sent a shiver down his spine. Elias took a cautious step backward, raising his hands slowly. He remembered Solari's warning that the forest was alive, watching those who passed through. "I mean no harm," he said, his voice steady despite his nerves. The creature tilted its head, studying him for a moment, then let out a soft, melodic sound that seemed to resonate with the surrounding plants. The forest responded in kind, and the leaves around him quivered as if communicating with each other. Elias felt a surge of adrenaline, realizing he might be dealing with more than just a simple animal. The entire ecosystem was interconnected, perhaps even sentient. Gathering his courage, he slowly continued down the path, glancing over his shoulder to see the creature still watching him. It didn't follow but seemed to linger, as if ensuring he was on the correct path. Elias quickened his pace, feeling a newfound respect for the mysterious life around him. As he ventured deeper, the forest began to thicken, and the air grew humid. Elias pushed through dense underbrush, his mind racing as he tried to make sense of the strange ecosystem he found himself in. The landscape pulsed with a rhythm he couldn't quite decipher, as though the very ground beneath his feet had a heartbeat. Suddenly, a mist began to roll in, shrouding the trees and casting the forest in an otherworldly glow. Elias shivered, feeling an almost magnetic pull urging him forward. He continued cautiously, his senses heightened. The faint trickling of water grew louder, signaling that he was nearing the river. But as he drew closer, the mist thickened, obscuring his vision. Shadows danced at the edge of his sight, and strange whispers filled the air, though he couldn't tell if they were real or simply his imagination. The pressure around him grew, an invisible weight pressing down, testing his resolve. "Elias." A voice called his name, soft and haunting, floating through the mist. He stopped, his heart pounding. "Who's there?" he called out, scanning the area, but he saw no one. The voice echoed again, this time closer. "Elias, you do not belong here." He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay calm. "I was chosen for this," he replied, speaking more to himself than to the unseen presence. The mist shifted, parting slightly to reveal a figure standing by the river, a spectral image of a young woman with familiar violet eyes. It was Alyra. She looked at him with an expression of sadness, her form wavering like a mirage. "Elias, why'd you come here?" she asked, her voice tinged with sorrow. He felt a pang of confusion. This couldn't be real. Alyra was still on the ship, or perhaps undergoing her own trials elsewhere. "You're not her," he said, taking a cautious step back. "This is just another test, isn't it?" The figure's face twisted, the sadness morphing into something darker. "You think you are ready to face the dangers of the expanse?" It hissed, its voice shifting into a low, menacing tone. "You are weak, Elias, just a fragile human. Turn back before it's too late." Elias clenched his fists, anger flaring up within him. He doubted himself many times, questioned his worthiness, but he'd come this far. He wasn't about to let a trick of the forest scare him off now. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, holding his gaze steady on the figure. "I don't care if I'm just a human," he said firmly. "I came here to prove myself, and I'm not turning back." As if in response, the mist receded, and the figure faded into the shadows, leaving only the faint echo of laughter. The oppressive weight lifted, and Elias felt a surge of relief as he emerged from the dense fog. The river lay before him, its waters sparkling under the strange twilight sky. Elias knelt by the river's edge, splashing his face with the cool water. He took a moment to steady himself, allowing the tension in his body to ease. The trial had tested his endurance, his resolve, and maybe even his sense of identity. But he had made it. Just as he stood, a familiar presence appeared by his side. Solari's figure materialized once more, their expression unreadable. "You face the shadows of doubt within yourself," Solari said, that a voice soft. "It is a strength not all possess, to confront the darkness within and emerge unbroken. Remember this moment, Elias, for the trials ahead will demand much more from you." Elias nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment mingled with trepidation. The forest had tested his courage, and he'd managed to prove himself, at least for now. But he knew that his journey had only just begun. Whatever lay ahead would be even more challenging, requiring him to dig deeper, to uncover strengths he wasn't yet aware of. As he walked alongside Solari, leaving the forest and its mysteries behind, he glanced up at the swirling, star-filled sky, a flicker of excitement stirring within him. He was ready to face whatever lay beyond, his heart set on the unknown wonders and dangers that awaited him in the vast reaches of the expanse. The bonds of unity. Elias was escorted through a vast, crystalline hallway by Solari, whose mere presence seemed to calm his racing mind. He wasn't sure what lay ahead, but knew that every step he took brought him closer to understanding his purpose within this enigmatic mission. The journey so far had been a whirlwind of strange landscapes and cryptic trials, yet he felt a growing resolve to prove himself, to uncover whatever latent potential the Council had seen in him. The hallway opened into a grand, circular chamber bathed in shimmering golden light. Around the room, Elias could see other figures entering, each one bearing the distinctive traits of various alien species: iridescent scales, eyes that glowed in rich hues, and limbs that moved in mesmerizing, fluid motions. Alira was among them, her violet eyes catching his across the room. She gave him a reassuring smile, and he felt a surge of relief. He wasn't facing this alone. Solari stood in the center of the chamber and addressed the group. "You have each completed the initial trial, facing your inner fears and doubts. Now, we proceed to the next phase, a test of unity and understanding. In the expanse, survival often depends not on individual strength, but on the bonds you forge with others. You must learn to trust, to support, and to become one with those who may be vastly different from yourselves." Elias took a deep breath, glancing around at the other beings who would be his allies. Each of them was unique, a stranger in both form and background. He wasn't entirely sure how they find common ground, but he could sense the importance of what Solari was saying. The dangers of the expanse were real, and only by working together could they hope to succeed. Solari raised a hand, and a soft glow emanated from their palm, spreading through the room like a warm mist. Elias felt a slight tingling sensation as the mist enveloped them. In an instant, he felt an awareness beyond himself, a deep connection to the minds and emotions of those around him. It was as though a bridge had formed between them, allowing him to sense not just their thoughts, but also their hopes, fears, and the weight of their own journeys. "This is the bonding," Solari explained, their voice a gentle whisper in his mind. "It is a connection that will enable you to feel and understand each other's thoughts and intentions. Use it wisely, for it can be both a strength and a vulnerability." Elias's mind buzzed with new sensations. He could feel the presence of Alira, her steady confidence like a beacon beside him. He sensed the calm yet cautious curiosity of a scaled, reptilian creature who stood nearby, and the sharp intellect of a crystalline being whose mind hummed like a perfectly tuned instrument. Each mind was unique, a symphony of distinct melodies, yet as they joined together, they created a harmony that felt stronger than any single note. The bonding faded, and the mist dissipated, but the lingering awareness of his companions remained. Elias looked around, realizing that they were no longer strangers to him. He knew them, not in detail, but in essence, as if they were extensions of his own mind. Your next task, Solari continued, will require you to harness this connection. You will be divided into teams and must navigate a series of obstacles designed to test your unity. There will be no guides, no maps, only your instincts and the strength of your bond. Trust in each other and you may yet succeed. As Solari's words settled over them, groups began to form. Elias found himself alongside Allura, the crystalline being who radiated intelligence, and the scaled reptilian alien whose curiosity Elias had sensed earlier. The crystalline being introduced themselves as Zephrax, their voice a resonant hum that seemed to vibrate in Elias's mind. The reptilian alien, with sharp golden eyes, inclined their heads slightly. "I am vocal," they said, their voice a low, rumbling growl. Elias, he introduced himself, nodding to his new companions. A strange sense of ease settled over him. Though they were vastly different, he felt connected to each of them, as if they were pieces of a larger whole. They were led to the entrance of a dense labyrinth constructed from shimmering, obsidian walls that twisted and stretched far beyond what the eye could see. The air was thick with an electric energy, and Elias could feel the subtle hum of power coursing through the structure. This was no ordinary maze. It was alive, somehow sentient, and it would be testing them as much as they would be navigating it. "The labyrinth is more than stone and walls," Allura whispered, her eyes scanning the entrance. "It adapts. It learns from your actions and changes its path accordingly." Elias swallowed, the weight of the challenge dawning on him. They would need to be clever, agile, and unified to conquer this ever-changing labyrinth. As they stepped forward, the entrance sealed shut behind them, and a wave of tension swept through the group. Elias took a steadying breath, reaching out with his mind to connect with his teammates. The bonding was still there, faint but tangible, a thread linking their minds together. He could feel each of them reacting in their own way. Allura's calm determination, Zephrax's calculated focus, and Vorkal's simmering readiness for action. They moved cautiously down the first corridor, their steps echoing off the gleaming walls. Suddenly, the path split in 3 directions, each one identical and offering no clue as to which was the correct choice. "We could split up," Vorkal suggested, his gaze flicking between the options. "No," Zephrax replied, their crystalline voice vibrating with conviction. Solari's instructions were clear. "This trial is about unity. Separating would weaken the bond." Elias nodded, feeling an instinctive agreement. "Let's stick together. If the labyrinth adapts, it might try to separate us intentionally." They chose the middle path, proceeding cautiously. The air grew colder, and Elias felt a strange tingling at the edge of his mind, as though the labyrinth itself was watching them, gauging their every move. As they rounded a corner, the walls suddenly closed in, forcing them into a tight, narrow passage. Elias felt his heart pound as the walls pressed close, brushing against his shoulders. "Steady," Allura murmured, reaching out with her hand. Elias took it, and immediately felt a surge of calm spread through him. He sensed the others drawing strength from the contact, their minds syncing into a unified rhythm. They emerged from the narrow passage, only to be confronted by a vast chamber filled with floating, shifting platforms suspended over an endless abyss. The platforms bobbed and weaved, each one vanishing and reappearing at irregular intervals. It was a daunting sight. Zephrax took a deep breath, their crystalline form pulsing faintly. "We'll need to time our jumps precisely, and we must stay in sync. If one of us falls..." The gravity of the challenge hung in the air. Allura stepped forward, her gaze steady. "I'll go first. Elias, you follow, then Vorkal and Zephrax last." One by one, they began leaping from platform to platform, the bonding guiding their movements. Elias could feel Allura's every step, sensing the exact moment she landed and when she was ready for the next jump. The awareness flowed back and forth between them, creating a rhythm that guided them across the treacherous expanse. As they neared the other side, a sudden tremor shook the chamber, causing the platforms to shudder violently. Elias stumbled, losing his balance, but Vorkal reached out, catching him with a swift, steadying grip. "Got you," Vorkal grunted, his golden eyes gleaming with resolve. Elias nodded gratefully, and together, they pressed on, the strength of their bond pushing them forward. Finally, they reached the other side, breathing heavily but triumphant. The chamber pulsed with a warm light, and Elias felt a swell of pride and relief. "Well done," came Solari's voice, resonating through the chamber. "You have passed the test of unity. Remember the strength you found here, for it will serve you well in the trials to come." As they exited the labyrinth, Elias looked at his teammates with newfound respect and camaraderie. They had faced the labyrinth together, their strengths weaving together into something greater than the sum of their parts. He felt a surge of confidence. He was part of something larger, something powerful. With his team beside him, Elias was ready to face whatever lay ahead in the expanse. Their journey was only beginning, and the bonds they had forged in the labyrinth would be tested in ways they could not yet imagine. But together, he knew they could face whatever challenges awaited them. The challenge of wisdom. As the group stepped out of the labyrinth, they were greeted by the sight of a vast open plain bathed in twilight. The sky was a deep indigo, scattered with stars that shimmered in hues Elias had never seen. Strange plants with silver leaves stretched toward the sky, their faint luminescence casting an eerie glow over the ground. At the center of the plain stood a monolithic structure, a towering ancient stone spire inscribed with intricate runes that pulsed with a faint light. Solari appeared before them once more, their forms shimmering like a mirage against the darkening sky. "The trial of unity has strengthened your bonds," they began, their voice a gentle hum. "But wisdom is as crucial as strength in the expanse. This trial will test your understanding and judgment. Each of you must use your knowledge, not only of yourselves but of each other, to overcome what lies within the spire of knowledge." Elias exchanged glances with Allura, Zephyrax, and Vorkal. He could feel their lingering exhaustion from the labyrinth, but there was a mutual determination among them to push forward. The spire loomed before them, its size intimidating yet strangely inviting, as though it held secrets waiting to be unlocked. Together, they walked across the plain toward its massive entrance, the silence punctuated only by the rustling of the silver leaves. As they approached, a pair of immense doors opened slowly, revealing a dark corridor lined with ancient symbols that glowed faintly in their presence. Elias felt a chill run down his spine as they stepped inside, the temperature dropping noticeably. The door closed behind them with a heavy thud, and the faint light faded, plunging them into near darkness. Suddenly, the corridor illuminated, and before them appeared a vast hall filled with floating spheres of light, each one casting eerie shadows across the walls. In the center of the hall stood a tall, elegantly cloaked figure whose face was hidden beneath a hood. The figure's voice echoed through the hall, calm and enigmatic. "Welcome, travelers. I am the Oracle of the Spire, keeper of knowledge both ancient and arcane. To prove your wisdom, you must answer the questions I pose. Each question requires insight, and only by combining your perspectives can you hope to succeed. Answer wisely, for there are consequences for those who fail." The group exchanged uneasy glances, feeling the weight of the trial pressing down on them. Elias's mind raced, wondering what kind of questions they would face and how they could rely on each other's knowledge. The oracle raised a slender, shadowed hand, and a sphere of light floated toward them, hovering just above their heads. "Your first question," the oracle intoned, "is one of empathy and perception. Imagine a conflict between two beings, one of fire and one of water. How would you find peace between them?" Allura stepped forward, her eyes narrowed in thought. I believe the key would be to understand their natures, she said thoughtfully. Fire and water seem opposites, but they both have vital roles. Peace could be achieved by finding a way for them to coexist, perhaps by creating a boundary where both elements can thrive without consuming the other. Zefrax nodded, adding in their resonant voice, perhaps they could be placed within an environment where each has a purpose that benefits the other. Water can shake fire, giving it direction, and fire can transform water, turning it into steam. Balance is possible through transformation. Vorkal crossed his arms, his reptilian eyes glinting. Peace comes from compromise. The fire and water could meet in a common ground, allowing each to retain their strength without diminishing the other. Elias listened to each suggestion, feeling a sense of awe at the perspectives his teammates brought. Taking a deep breath, he spoke. So, we find a way for them to exist in harmony, using each other's strengths. Maybe they don't need to change who they are, but learn to respect what the other brings. Like us, working together despite our differences. The oracle was silent for a moment, and then the light in the sphere brightened, casting a warm glow over them. You have answered well, the oracle said, and Elias felt a surge of relief. You understand that wisdom comes from seeing beyond appearances, from understanding and respecting differences. Continue to the next challenge. They moved forward as the hall morphed around them, shifting to reveal another chamber. This one was smaller, filled with mirrors that distorted their reflections. Each mirror showed a different version of themselves, older, younger, fearful, defiant. Elias saw himself reflected in dozens of ways, each reflection capturing a different emotion. The oracle's voice echoed once more. Wisdom also comes from self-awareness. Look into these mirrors and confront what you see. Only by accepting each version of yourselves can you proceed. Elias took a hesitant step toward one of the mirrors, peering into his reflection. He saw himself, tired and uncertain, with a look of doubt etched across his face. He knew this version well, his insecurities, his fears of being inadequate for this journey. The reflection seemed to stare back at him, as if challenging him to accept his flaws. I see myself, he murmured, feeling a pang of vulnerability. All the things I'm afraid of, failing, not being strong enough. But those fears are part of me. Alara stepped beside him, her reflection showing a similar look of uncertainty, mixed with the weight of loss. We carry these doubts for a reason, she said softly, but they don't define us. They're only parts of our story. Zefrax's reflection was calm and poised, yet a hint of sadness flickered in their crystalline eyes. I see my own isolation, the distance I feel from others because of my nature. It is both a strength and a loneliness I have accepted. Vorkal's reflection was fierce, showing a warrior scarred by battle, yet there was a flicker of vulnerability in his gaze. I am both fierce and fragile, he admitted, his voice low. I have fought, but I have also feared. As they each acknowledged their reflections, a strange warmth filled the room. The mirrors began to shift, the images melting away until they reflected only the present, showing each of them standing together, united. The oracle spoke again, its tone softened. Self-awareness is the root of wisdom. Accepting all parts of oneself, even those we fear, gives us clarity and strength. You have passed the second test. With a nod, they moved forward into the next chamber. This one was dimly lit, with walls inscribed in ancient runes. In the center stood a pedestal bearing a small glowing sphere. The oracle's voice returned, resonating through the room. This is your final challenge within the spire of knowledge. This sphere contains the answer to a question that plagues the minds of all who seek truth. Touch it, and you will see what lies hidden within yourselves. But be warned, some truths are difficult to bear. Only those who can face their deepest secrets may take this path. Elias hesitated, feeling a pang of apprehension. Allura placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, her gaze steady. We face this together, she said, and the others nodded in agreement. Taking a deep breath, Elias reached out and touched the sphere. Instantly, a rush of memories and emotions flooded his mind. He saw himself as a child, gazing up at the stars with wonder. He saw moments of doubt, times when he felt small and insignificant, questioning his worth. And then he saw the faces of his teammates, each one connected to him by their shared journey, their bond a source of strength he hadn't realized he needed. As he pulled his hand back, Elias felt a profound sense of clarity. He wasn't alone in this journey, and his purpose wasn't merely to prove his worth, but to grow, to learn, and to support those around him. The oracle's voice echoed once more, softer this time. You have each faced your truth, and in doing so, you have embraced the wisdom within. Remember this moment, for it is a foundation you will carry forward. The chamber brightened, and the spire seemed to resonate with a hum of approval. They had passed the trial of wisdom, emerging with a deeper understanding of themselves and each other. As they stepped out into the twilight once more, Elias felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced the labyrinth of unity, the mirrors of self-awareness, and the sphere of truth. Together, they had uncovered the wisdom needed to face the challenges of the expanse. Elias looked at Alira, Zephyrax, and Vorkal, his heart swelling with a sense of belonging. They were no longer just allies, they were a team, bound by a trust that went beyond words. Whatever lay ahead, he knew they would face it together, drawing on each other's strengths as they ventured deeper into the mysteries of the galaxy. The Crucible of Fire. The group emerged from the spire of knowledge, stepping into a world that felt radically different from the one they had just left. A vibrant landscape stretched before them, filled with rolling hills of molten rock, rivers of glowing lava, and a sky crackling with energy. The atmosphere was thick and warm, and the very ground pulsed beneath their feet as if alive. Elias felt a thrill of excitement mixed with apprehension. This was unlike anything he had ever encountered. This was the domain of fire, the element of passion and chaos. He glanced at his companions, Alira, Zephyrax, and Vorkal, and could sense a mixture of determination and uncertainty among them. They had succeeded in their previous trials, but this new challenge promised to be far more dangerous. As they gathered together, Solari appeared once more, their forms shimmering against the fiery backdrop. "Welcome to the Crucible of Fire," they announced, their voice resonating with warmth. "This trial will test your courage and resolve. Here, you will face elemental challenges that will push you to your limits. It is essential that you remain unified, for the flames of adversity can consume the unwary." Elias's heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead. He had come to understand that each trial so far had deepened not only their bonds, but also their understanding of themselves. However, facing fire, something inherently destructive, felt particularly daunting. "Prepare yourselves," Solari instructed, gesturing to the horizon. "Your first task is to retrieve the flame of knowledge from the heart of the firestorm. It is a manifestation of wisdom that will grant you insight into your true potential. But beware, the fire guards its treasure fiercely." The ground beneath them shook, and the fiery landscape shifted, revealing a treacherous path leading toward a towering volcano, smoke billowing from its summit. The sky darkened, swirling with storm clouds that flashed with lightning. Elias could feel the heat radiating from the volcano, an oppressive force that made the air shimmer with intensity. "Stay close together," Alora said, her voice firm. "We'll need to support each other. The flames will try to separate us, I'm sure of it." Vorkal nodded, his reptilian features set in determination. "We have faced many challenges together. This will be no different." As they approached the volcano, the heat became more intense. The path twisted and turned, filled with rocky outcrops and treacherous terrain. The ground beneath them rumbled ominously, warning of the volatility of the volcano. Elias focused on the connection they had built through their trials, the bond that linked their minds and hearts. He could feel Alura's steady presence beside him, the calm determination of Zephyrax resonating in his thoughts, and Vorkal's fierce resolve pushing him forward. Together, they stepped onto the narrow ledge that circled the volcano, flames licking at the rocks beneath them. Suddenly, A surge of fire erupted from the volcano's mouth, sending a wave of heat that forced them to shield their faces. From the flames emerged a fiery creature, a phoenix-like being composed entirely of flames and embers, its eyes glowing with ancient wisdom. "Who dares approach the flame of knowledge?" It roared, its voice like a furnace blast. "Only those who possess true courage and wisdom may pass." Elias stepped forward, heart pounding. "We seek the flame of knowledge to help us understand our true potential," he declared, forcing himself to meet the creature's fiery gaze. The phoenix studied them, its eyes narrowing. "Many have come before you, but few possess the strength to withstand the trials of fire. You must prove yourselves worthy. Answer me this. What is the greatest source of power within each of you?" Elias's mind raced, but he could sense the responses of his companions, swirling in the bonding they had established. They had each faced their fears, their doubts, and now they had to confront what truly empowered them. Alara stepped forward first, her voice strong. "My greatest source of power is empathy. Understanding others allows me to connect and find common ground, even in the fiercest of conflicts." Vorkal followed, his deep voice resonating with confidence. "For me, it is my strength and resilience. I have fought many battles, but it is my ability to endure and protect those I care for that truly empowers me." Zephyrax chimed in, their crystalline form shimmering with conviction. "Knowledge is my greatest power. The pursuit of understanding and the ability to think critically allow me to adapt and innovate in any situation." Elias felt the warmth of their convictions surround him. Drawing on the strength of the bonding, he found his voice. "For me, it's my courage to embrace the unknown. I may not have the experience of my companions, but my willingness to face challenges head-on fuels my determination to grow." The phoenix paused, flames dancing around its body. "You have each spoken true," it declared. "Your powers come not from mere physical strength, but from the essence of who you are. The flame of knowledge lies ahead, but the path will test your resolve. Are you ready to face it?" Elias felt a surge of adrenaline and nodded resolutely. "We're ready." The phoenix spread its wings wide, and with a powerful flap, a wave of heat washed over them, clearing the smoke from the air. The volcano's summit erupted with a burst of light, revealing a narrow path leading into the molten core. They stepped forward, the heat intensifying as they approached the mouth of the volcano. The path twisted into a cavern, its walls glistening with magma. The heat was overwhelming, and Elias felt sweat bead on his brow. He focused on the bonding, letting it guide him through the oppressive atmosphere. As they moved deeper, the ground began to tremble, and bursts of fire shot from the walls. Suddenly, a fissure opened beneath Vorkal's feet. He stumbled, teetering on the edge of the chasm. "Help!" he shouted, reaching out for support. Without thinking, Elias lunged forward, grabbing Vorkal's arm. "I've got you." He could feel the heat radiating from the fissure, the flames licking at their feet. Alora quickly joined, wrapping her other arm around Vorkal to pull him back to safety. With a united effort, they heaved Vorkal back onto solid ground just as the fissure sealed itself with a deafening roar. Breathing heavily, they exchanged glances, a renewed sense of camaraderie igniting within them. The flames had tested them, but they had withstood the challenge together. Continuing through the cavern, they finally reached the heart of the volcano. The flame of knowledge burned brightly atop a pedestal, surrounded by swirling embers. It radiated warmth, its light illuminating the cavern with an ethereal glow. Elias stepped forward, feeling the heat envelop him like a comforting embrace. "Only those who seek knowledge with pure intentions may touch the flame," the phoenix warned, watching intently from the shadows. Elias reached out, feeling the energy pulsing from the flame. It wasn't just heat, it was alive, a swirling mass of insight and understanding. As his fingers brushed against its surface, a jolt of energy surged through him, filling his mind with visions and wisdom. He saw flashes of the past, other beings from across the galaxy seeking knowledge, each facing their own trials. He felt their fears, their hopes, and the lessons they had learned. In that moment, he understood. Knowledge wasn't just about information, it was about experience, connection, and the courage to grow. Suddenly, the flame flickered, and Elias found himself standing in the center of a vast, starry expanse, surrounded by the faces of his companions. They were all there, their features illuminated by the soft glow of starlight. "You are not alone in this journey," a voice whispered, echoing through the cosmos. "Knowledge is a flame that burns brighter when shared. Embrace the bonds you formed, for they are your greatest strength." As the vision faded, Elias felt a deep sense of purpose wash over him. The flame of knowledge had revealed not just the importance of wisdom, but also the power of unity and shared experiences. He turned to his companions, eyes shining with realization. We have to keep moving forward together. This journey isn't just about us as individuals, it's about what we can achieve as a team. The phoenix nodded, its fiery wings folding in. "You have proven yourselves worthy. The flame of knowledge is yours to carry. Use it wisely, and it will guide you through the darkness." Elias carefully took the flame from the pedestal, feeling its warmth pulse through him. He knew this was not just a prize, it was a responsibility. Together, they turned back toward the exit, a newfound determination propelling them forward. As they stepped back out into the fiery landscape, the heat felt less oppressive. Instead, it invigorated them, a reminder of the challenges they had faced and the strength they had found in one another. The crucible of fire had tested them, but they had emerged united, ready to face whatever lay ahead in the expanse. Elias looked up at the swirling sky above, feeling a sense of awe. They were on a journey that would take them to places beyond imagination, filled with trials that would test their very souls. But now, with the flame of knowledge in hand and the bonds of friendship forged through fire, he felt ready for anything the universe could throw their way. Together, they would face the unknown.